these lights on? And the projector? You told me you had another projector. He was lying. So this is my talk. This is my outline. But the last TED talk by Dan Pink, that's my talk. The trouble with engineers, and I have to do this all the time to tell people, is that you are too logical. You want the world to be the way you want it to be, which is not the way that it is. So I am here to tell you that I am a nerd. I got my degree in electrical engineering from MIT. I was, in fact, at MIT at the same time as President Nam-Suh was at MIT, except I graduated 2 years before him. So he has to listen to me. I am older. And I got a master's degree in electrical engineering and a PhD in psychology. Because why do you make all of this technical stuff? You make it so people can use it. So you must understand people. So in fact, Dr. Yo said, he was an EE nerd, that art needs technology. But no, I agree with the literature argument. Technology needs art. And what we need for design are people who can understand other people. So, how many of you are unhappy? Oh, I was told that all the students at KAIST were unhappy. So how many of you are happy? How many of you are unhappy? Now you see, I think if you listen to the stories of the people you just heard, it was so easy to launch satellites, right? It was very simple, there were no problem, you get the job. Or it's very simple to become a musician and to go to England to study. I'm sorry, go to the United States to study. You went to England to study. No. Being successful means not doing it the normal way, means actually going through lots and lots and lots of pain and difficulty. And so I am going to argue that being unhappy is not only good, but necessary. So let me start. It's the yin and the yang. It's drama, it's comedy and tragedy. You can't have happiness unless you also have unhappiness. You need the two. They contrast with each other. So I want to talk about 3 words, or 3 pairs: happy and sad, satisfied and dissatisfied, and optimism versus pessimism. And I'm going to say that what might be good is it's not bad. It's okay to be sad or unhappy. And I don't want you to be satisfied. I want you to be dissatisfied. But I want you to be an optimist. And the reason you have to be dissatisfied is so you can do something about it. What you want to do is go around and observe. You're an observer, right? You go around and you watch people, and you want to make them have that special look in their eyes. But what if they don't? Then you're not satisfied. And you have to find what it takes to make them satisfied. So, first step is, don't worry about being happy. I was recently interviewed by someone who wanted to know, he's going around the world interviewing people to understand what makes people successful. And every one of the people he interviews says, I'm not successful. I don't know what it means to be successful, and if you really want to be successful, do not try to be successful. What you have to do is figure out what you like to do, because that's what you will be good at. And if other people think it's not important, so what? Now, when you decide what it is you like to do, it may turn out that some of the requirements are things you don't like to do. That's okay. Then go learn those things you don't like to do. But remember, the goal is do things well, and do things that make a difference, and I'll come back to that. Let's talk a little bit about psychology, because that's what this is really about. Happiness is a state of mind. Satisfaction is a judgment. This is a state. You can even measure it with specialized equipment. This, though, is a judgment that we cannot measure, but you can measure it yourself, whether you are satisfied, which means you have to have a goal, and you have to have an outcome, you have to predict what might happen, and you compare how well you're doing, and then you are satisfied or not. And optimism and pessimism are points of view. And points of view. Let me explain a point of view. I don't like to use slides that get in my way. I can't change what I'm saying by other people. But suppose I am using slides, which I have. Do you have the slide advance? Here it is. So suppose I'm using slides, and I've just shown you a slide. I've shown you this slide, and I've shown you this slide, and now I want to show you this slide. And I have the controller, and it has two buttons. One's on top, and one's below it. Which button gives me the next slide? How many people think it's the top button? How many people think it's the bottom button? When I first tried this, I first encountered this in Asia. And I said, well, next slide, top button. And it went backwards. And I said, oh my goodness, I've hit a cultural divide. This must be something that Asians do and Americans are different. But no, half of you said top and half of you said bottom. And so I tried the same question in the United States, and half the people said top and half the people said bottom. And I tried it again in Europe, and the same result. But it is a cultural difference. Usually, top usually means going forward. But now imagine I have the slide. So here's my slide. It's in your head. Here's the slide, and here's the slide, and here's the third slide, and the fourth slide, and the fifth slide, and the sixth slide. And here I am. Now, when I push the button, who moves? If I move through time, see, I want the next slide, I go forward, I hit the top button. But if what I'm doing is saying, come to me, so I want the next slide, come on, I hit the bottom button. You had the same problem when in the early days, and I'm so old, I remember this, when we first designed the graphical user interface, the computer you all use today. Well, we're getting rid of it, but before that, where you have a mouse, and you have a scroll bar, and you have to move, you're reading, you hit the bottom of the screen, you want to read more, and you have a scroll bar. Which way should you move the scroll bar? Up or down? You would not believe, we argued about that for about 3 years. And it's a point of view. The point is this. When I move the scroll bar, am I dragging the text down? If so, then when I want to read more at the bottom, I want to lift the text up, right? I lift up. Or is the text fixed and I'm moving the window? So, which button is correct? They're both correct. It depends upon your point of view. Which scroll bar method is correct? They're both correct. It depends on your point of view. Point of view is worth everything. Point of view is what really matters, and optimist, pessimist is a point of view. What's in the head really matters. So let me tell you another one that makes no logical sense. I'm going to put a narrow plank. It's going to be, I don't know, 50 centimeters wide. And I'm going to walk along this narrow plank. And I'm going to lay it on the floor right here. And if I walk on this narrow plank, it's easy. I can do that. I can do this. I can jump up and down. I don't even have to look, right? It's simple. Now what I'm going to do is take this plank and put it high up in the air. I'm not even going to go on it. Why? If it's so simple to do in the ground, why is it so hard when it's up in the air? It's all in the mind, and it's all emotional. And let me say, engineers think that we are logical, rational beings. No, we're not. We're emotional. It's all about emotions, really. Logic is not natural. If logic was the way we thought, we would not have to teach it in school. Logic is not natural. Emotions are natural. And emotions are very complicated. Because what the emotional system is doing is it's making a value judgment. Is this safe? Is this dangerous? Is this good? Or is this bad? And there are at least 3 levels of them. One of them is really fast. Because if I'm walking off the edge, my emotional system has to detect that edge and know it's dangerous really fast to stop me. Another part of the emotional system, which is sort of the middle level, is always expecting something to happen and comparing what did happen with what you expected. You're driving your car, suddenly there's something in front of you, you put your foot on the brake, and the car does not slow down. And the first thing that happens is your stomach goes, bleh. Your stomach. That's the emotional system, and it's fast. It's really fast. And you can see sort of these things in operation. I take a heavy weight and I drop it on my toe. I feel it hit my toe. And I say, uh-oh, because it doesn't hurt, but it will. The emotional signals go on big fat nerves all the way from the toe up to the brain. The pain signals go on narrow, skinny nerves, and it takes them some time. You actually have about a second or more between knowing that your foot has been injured and feeling it. We have different systems. The emotional, some of them are fast and some of them are slow. And the slowest of the emotional systems, the first one is just a state, danger or safe. The second one is an expectation, evaluation, that, ooh, that isn't what I expected, or, yeah, that's just what I expected, that's good. And the third one is associating blame or credit, which is, hey, that result was really good, and it was because of me, and I feel great. Or, that result was really good, it was because of you, and I give you praise. Or that result was really horrible, it was because of me, and I feel very guilty. Or it's because of you, and I'm going to blame you. But those are more cognitive, slower, more developed, they cause reflection. All of these are involved in making someone successful or not successful, or happy or not happy. What I'm here to say is the psychology is really critical. It's all really about psychology. Don't laugh at emotions, because if you actually tried to figure out the neural circuitry underlying emotions, it's electrical and chemical and extremely complex, and it changes the way the mind works. So, if you want to be really creative, be happy. In the world of design, when we want to have people be really creative, the first thing we do is we always start in the morning, and never at the end of the day, because the day gets in the way. So we want to start you with a fresh mind, and we start playing games. We give you good food, we play games, we tell jokes, and then we start creating, and there's no criticism allowed, just create. And creative people are often happy people. not always, but being happy makes you more creative. You're sensitive to all the changes. I was at Apple Computer for quite a while, and it was one of the best places I've ever worked in. It was filled with creative, wonderful people. And we always had new ideas. And the CEO at the time, when I first joined, was a man named John Scully, who was very, very bright and understood the business. But he would call me into his office like every week and say, "Don, I have a new idea. Stop everything you're doing." And I'd say, "But you said that last week." Yes, but this is a better idea. And sometimes it was. But his ideas would take 200 engineers 2 or 3 years to do. If you change your mind every week, the end result is nothing happens. When Steve Jobs came in, he said, "I have an idea and you're going to do it." And if you said, "Oh, wouldn't it be better if you did this?" Steve Jobs said, "You." You can translate that if you like. Said, "Say it once more and you're fired." That is to say, I don't want other ideas. I have the vision of what I want, and now I want to make sure that we execute. And you know what it takes to execute well? Anxiety. If you're working for a company, here's what I recommend. When you want good ideas, throw parties, tell jokes, have fun, create. When you decide which of those ideas you're going to do, figure out how long it will take. It's going to take you 9 months to do that. Okay? I want it in 6 months. I want you to be nervous. I want to come after you all the time and say, okay, how far did you get? Show me. No, that's not good enough. I want you to be unhappy. Because when you're unhappy, it's like when I'm walking on this plank way up in the air, I am focused. So there are 2 major levels of emotion. We call them positive valence and negative valence, just positive and negative. When you're positive, you're happy, you're relaxed, there's no danger, it's comfortable, I can create, do anything I want. When I'm negative, I'm focused, trying to solve the problem in front of me. And to be successful, you need to have both. It's really interesting if you look at the way the worlds of 3 different fields, medicine, design, and psychology, have changed recently. It used to be about fixing broken things. Medicine fixed you when you were sick or you broke your arm. Psychology studied sick people with weird mental ailments, or tried to find out, why we could not solve some problems and mistakes we made in thinking. And designers, in early days of computers, for example, we all worried about nobody could understand them because they were designed by engineers. And they were just completely incomprehensible to normal people. So we spent a lot of time on that. And medicine was quite successful in healing people. And psychology was quite successful in understanding what was going on. And designers were quite successful in designing the modern computers we have today that we actually could understand and use. And so now it's time for the next big change, which is, take a look at the iPhone. It really doesn't do that much more than you can do with other traditional things. But it's so much more fun. And as somebody who studies usability, the iPhone is hard to use sometimes. I say, change the time zone. And people say, oh, wow. And they finally do it, and they say, see, wasn't that easy? It's fun. And so that's where we are now. Medicine is trying to understand wellness, and psychology is trying to understand happiness, and design is trying to introduce pleasure and experience. Now, one last thing before I end. maxims. You actually heard a lot today from other people, but I'll give you mine, which is one of them is never solve the problem as given to you. It's always the wrong problem. Figure out what the right problem is. I've already told you another one, which is make sure you do the things you really love to do, because you'll do it well. Don't do what you think other people want you to do, because you won't do it well. Don't concentrate on the urgent problems. If you spend every day solving what's important that day, the urgent problem, you will never solve the important problems. The important problems they take a long time. So you say to yourself, oh, if I don't do it today, it's okay. Writing a book is a good example, because I write a lot of books. And let me tell you, it's hard to write a book. Any excuse not to write is wonderful. And so it's really important to read the news, or answer my email, or oh my goodness, a student's in trouble, or oh my goodness, my dean wants to see me, or oh my goodness, this is that, boom, boom. No. You have to block off time and do the important thing. A few hours every day, every day, every day, and a few years later you have something important. Because in the end, what you want to do in life is do the important things. What you want to do in life is do the important things that make a difference, so that in the end you will be satisfied and you will have pleasure. And whether you're happy or not, I don't care. Thank you.